While we're waiting for our panelists to come up and get settled, let me just take a moment to thank the staff and the volunteers from the Congressional Office. Please wave your hands. The staff have done a yeoman's job of organizing every aspect of the day, and so I just want to thank them for their diligent work. Thank everyone for participating, and I also want to thank our friends in the diplomatic community who joined us today and the important role that the African ambassadors play. This has been a wonderful aspect of the work, is to get to know the diplomatic corps and to have them be completely integrated into the work that we do on the Hill. As we work this year to make sure that the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act is extended, working with the diplomatic corps and getting their opinions of what we should do has been vital to our work. Well, moving us in for our final panel of the day, it is my job to introduce our moderator, Simhar Araya, and we're going to be joined a little bit later with two additional panelists, but we're going to go ahead and get started. But Simhar is founder and executive director of DAWN, and DAWN stands for the Diaspora African Women's Network. This is an organization whose mission it is to develop and support talented women and girls of the African diaspora focused on African affairs. DAWN has 250 members representing 34 African countries, the United States, Caribbean, South America, Europe, and the Middle East. She is a lawyer by training. She has over 12 years' experience working on U.S.-Africa foreign policy, diaspora engagement, development, and international humanitarian law. She has extensive grassroots and leadership experience working with local East African and diaspora communities. Join me in welcoming our moderator for the panel, Simhar Araya.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Bass. And hello, everyone. How are you doing? Now, look, we're starting a little early, so we're going to need you to keep with us because I think this discussion is going to go pretty fruitful with our guests and the additional panels we're about to have, panelists. My name is Simhar Araya, and welcome to the last panel of the day. There's really truth in what they say about saving the best for last. Today we've got an inspiring and exciting conversation about to take place about the role of the diaspora in promoting Africa's development through investment, relationship building, capacity building. We've got beautiful examples of what can take place with collaboration and innovative approaches. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you just a little bit more about the Diaspora African Women's Network, or what we affectionately call as DAWN. We believe that our goal is to invest in the next generation of Africa's leaders, one woman at a time. And for us, that means investing in the African leaders that are also outside of Africa, ready to give back. We represent the next generation of women whose skills, commitment, leadership are consistently invested towards the continent's betterment. Our members are women ranging 25 to 35 on average. Their membership, we have 3 chapters. We're across the United States and throughout the European region. But also, interestingly, we're a cross-sector of various professions. So we've got development, global health, law, business, politics. It's a testament to the ways in which the next generation are actually preparing to help the continent. Now, my role is as a moderator, so I will not say too much more about what I do, but I just wanted to welcome our guests, Reginald Maynor and Tebebu Asafa, and we have successive panelists who are coming shortly. Administrative note about today's panel. We're going to, after a brief introduction, each panelist will give general remarks about their work for about 5 minutes. Once remarks are finished, we'll open it up to a question and answer session, which I will moderate. Those that wish to come to the mic, please make sure you do so. I think there's one there. Questions, please keep them brief so we can have more time for fruitful discussion. Probably take, as we saw before, 3 to 4 questions at a time. So start thinking of questions you've got about diaspora in development and Africa's prosperity. One of the top survey responses that Representative Bass found when she sent out the initial invitation for this survey was regarding the topic for this year's Braintrust focused on the diaspora. This panel had an overwhelming response when we asked, what would you like to see in this year's conference? Overwhelmingly, over 700 of you said that you wanted to be at a panel about the diaspora. So we've brought that for you. I'm pleased to moderate this topic, which is very near and dear to my heart. As an executive director of an organization which I founded, it is a labor of love, but one which I know the fruits were already bearing fruit. I see some Dawn women in the audience, so I'm just going to take a risk and ask those of you here to please stand and introduce, wave if you can. Oh, you didn't stand. Oh, I said stand. Yes. So we focus on promoting their leadership and mentoring them and helping women become the next generation of leaders, and I'm just very pleased to see all of you in the audience today. It's been estimated that the African diaspora totals about 150 million people in the Americas. With over $40 billion in purchasing power, the diaspora, if properly leveraged, can have a significant and transformative effect on the growth of economies and local communities throughout the continent. Today's panel provides tangible examples of this transformative effect and is another example of the driving force behind Africa's rise. As we heard earlier in the day, there are opportunities abound with respect to attracting business investment and trade opportunities. Young Africans are returning in increasing numbers, returning home to start businesses and provide technical know-how to governments, NGOs, and for-profit institutions. I am an example of that fact. After I finished grad school and became a lawyer, my first job was to go back to Eritrea, where my parents are from. I'm born and raised in the United States, and yet I felt it was my duty, my obligation, and a service of sorts for me to go back and work in Eritrea. As an attorney, I participated in an international arbitration peace process for 3 years. And that was not only a professional experience for me, but it was my contribution as a diaspora to help the country's own prosperity and development, and in this particular case, peace building. It is for this reason alone, that people like myself, like the panelists, like those of you in the audience, of going back or contributing from afar or finding ways to build those bridges. It is for this reason that Congresswoman Bass wanted to conclude today's Braintrust with an acknowledgement of this growing phenomenon, and in particular, acknowledgement of our communities and the opportunities that have yet to be fully realized. Let me stop here and introduce our panelists. First, we have Reginald Maynor, right to my right, an executive at Luster Products. Mr. Maynor will share the opportunities and challenges that he's experienced to doing business in Africa. And to his right, we have Mr. Tababu Asafa. Tababu will share his vision and work at Blessed Coffee, a diaspora company that connects coffee farmers in Ethiopia with wholesalers in the United States. Now, because we're starting a little bit early, I do imagine that our other panelists will arrive, and I will be sure to introduce them when they get here. With that, I will now turn it over and let Mr. Maynor begin by telling us a bit about his experience.
Thank you, Simhar. Can you hear me? Yes. First of all, good afternoon. I want to thank Congressmember Bass, her staff, especially my buddy Eric Williams, for inviting me here today. I also want to thank all of you that are still here. I don't see any empty chairs. I just see chairs that are filled with people who are committed. And so to that I say thank you. Luster Products is a family-owned and operated business. Luster is the last name of the owners. We've been in business for 57 years. That's a milestone for an African-American company. We're working on third generation of working with and or for Luster Products. And in that heritage, Fred Luster Sr., who has passed on unfortunately, left a legacy of empowerment and sharing with the community. Though he makes hair products, we don't look at it as just a commodity item. We look at it as an opportunity for people of color and women specifically. If you just do the sheer numbers, what entrepreneurial enterprise has as many people of color and women specifically as the hairdressing business? Can you name me one? No. So to that fact, we don't look at it as just selling grease. We look at it as imparting opportunity, imparting skills training. I had someone refer to the hairdressing industry as an informal enterprise. Well, it's not informal. If you deliver a service and you get paid for that service, and that money is then generated in your community, and that community then begins to thrive. It is not a passive endeavor. That is not informal. And so to that extent, our experiences in Africa have been varied. I don't want you to assume that it's an easy or a passive undertaking, because it's not. It's not for the faint of heart. However, it is not an impossible task by any stretch of the imagination. It is something that once you achieve it, once you get to a place where you have consistent business, where you have partners who you know you can trust, when there is an opportunity and you see someone building a business, building a lifestyle for them, for their community, it then begins to make sense. It begins to send a message to myself, to my superiors, my boss, the owners of Luster Products, that, hey, we are doing the right things by investing in Africa. It's an investment, ladies and gentlemen. We're not into aid. We don't just give. We teach them how to fish. We don't just go, drop some products, look for commercial gain, and then come home and share those resources within the United States. We are committed to doing business in Africa, for Africans, by Africans. And until the general populace begins to understand that, we will continue to be challenged. However, in the scheme of the challenges within Africa, the other major challenge is dismissing stereotypes. I heard that mentioned earlier this evening. Stereotypes get in the way of consistent and credible business. It gets in the way of what you know is to be true and equitable within a given market. So you must communicate with your African partners. You must educate them on how you do business, but you must also learn how they do business. You must learn the indigenous customs, the indigenous traditions, because that shows a level of respect that the African continent and its people deserve. Far too often I've heard people say, well, their skill set is not there. Well, then help them get there. Don't just be a naysayer. Don't just say that, well, I went to Africa and I didn't find anybody I could do business with, so therefore I've given up. No. Then you weren't meant to go to Africa. You were just looking for financial gain. You weren't looking to empower. You weren't looking to work with people. And that's what Luster Products does. Human nature is universal, ladies and gentlemen. We are kindred spirits. I have a connection and an affinity to Africa, and I don't question it. I don't know, well, I do know why. A friend of mine's, very famous actor, Isaiah Washington, has a phrase, DNA has memory. Well, my DNA is saying something to me. And apparently it's saying something to some of you in the audience, because you are here, you are committed, you want to know, you want to share, you want to interact, you want to make a difference. I've been going to Africa for 27 years, and I have never seen as much energy, excitement, commitment from on high. Congresswoman Bass, my congressman, Bobby Rush, and other members of Congress, the Congressional Black Caucus, you have made a commitment to the empowerment of black people globally. I'll take an applause, thank you. Loosen up, I know it's the end of the day, I know you're tired, the box lunch probably weigh you down, but all that aside, let's treat this with the respect and the due diligence that is necessary. And to further the cause, engage your politicians. Go online. We saw the things that Microsoft is offering. There's no excuse for you not seeking or having information about a cause or an entity that you want to learn about and do something about. And again, don't go to Africa strictly for financial gain. Have some entrepreneurial mindset, have some empowerment mindset. We also are in the business of drilling wells. Right now we have 23 wells and 1 goat farm that we can say we've contributed to. And so that in itself is part and parcel to what this organization, the Africa Braintrust, and what you in the audience should be about. It's about empowerment. It's about sharing your skill set. And it's about learning. I have learned just as much as I have taught. But that's because I went to Africa with an open mind, with a consensus that I know I can make a contribution. I know they can make a contribution. And again, I mentioned Bobby Rush, and there's an act before Congress that, creating jobs through Exports to Africa Act. But that doesn't mean just for commercial gain. You can export a commodity, but you should leave an empowerment. You should leave an opportunity. You should leave something for them to hold on to. And to me, the biggest commodity of all is hope. And hope only comes about if people see something new coming down the road to make them a better person, to make their family more secure, and to then be a citizen, a global citizen that is no longer looked down upon. I hate it when people call Africa a dark continent, or how come you're going there? Oh, no, it's again, it's not a passive undertaking. Between the shots, the pills, the travel, the time, the food, the bugs. I love it because it's all part of learning. And trust me, when you go to Africa, you are going to have first-time experiences. There are things that you're going to experience in Africa that you're not going to experience anywhere else. And for me, the biggest experience was as a person who sells hair products, seeing the glow in a hairstylist's eyes when I teach her how to be a business person. Not just how to do hair, but how to be a business person. I see the excitement in a consumer who we just did a makeover for, and she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize herself. Now, you don't do something that she can't go to work the next day, but you give her something that's a little different. And the last thing I'd like to impart is we've heard a lot about other countries that are courting Africa. And there's no reason why the United States of America, with our indigenous connection, with our global connection, with our heritage connection, our DNA connection, have not committed time, resources, and opportunity to the continent. To me, that is a travesty. And it's a travesty, though, that is being eliminated by people like Congresswoman Bass, like Bobby Rush, Senator Durbin, people who care, people who are committed to making a difference. And I grew up in New York, used to play ball in Harlem. And there was a thing about each one teach one out of Rucker Park. I've never forgotten each one teach one, and that's the mindset that I take to Africa. I'm passionate about it, and it has been successful for us. But again, not for the sake of being successful, but for the sake of having imparted an opportunity and given someone some hope. And that's what we're selling, is hope.
Thank you, Reginald. I should probably stay up here. Thank you, Reginald, for that very revealing and passionate and informative summary. One of our third panelists has also walked in, so before we go to meet and learn more about Tubebu's work, I just wanted to introduce Julie Ndiji. Now, she is from Cameroon, and she will showcase the work of Neely's Food, an African diaspora business that has successfully entered major U.S. retailers and has achieved extraordinary success. Now, to Reginald's right, we've got Tubebu Asafa, who launched Blessed Coffee with a very interesting model that combines entrepreneurship with a strong social twist. Tubebu, if you could you tell us a little bit more about Blessed Coffee and the element of the social twist that you've focused on?
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Can you hear me? Thank you, Samara. Before I do that, I'd like to recognize Samara. She's a very vibrant, strong leader in our community. I was very privileged to be with her when the White House recognized leaders in the diaspora and gave us Champion of Change Award. So please give her a warm welcome. All right, next to that, I'm going to share three things. First, I'm going to introduce you to a business model that my wife and I created. And then I'm going to tell you my personal story behind that model to give it a context. And then at the end, I hope to leave you excited because the opportunity moving forward for the global economic revitalization is Africa. I'll come back to that. But first, let me tell you, I'm going to be very honest and bold with you. People of the African descent living in America are completely clueless about what Africa is. I hate to say you are very, very ignorant. I'm saying that to provoke you, to shake you. 7 out of the 10, actually before I even get into that, let me first thank the Black Caucus Foundation for putting this together, And I would like to please get a warm thank you to our Congresswoman Karen Bass. She's very actively, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, she's holding the flag for the renewed U.S.-Africa Dialogue for Development. I've seen her work. We're proud of you. We are behind you on the grassroots level. I'd like to say that. Okay, going back. It's amazing. Oh, by the way, let me prove that you're ignorant. This is Ethiopian New Year. Welcome at the summit. Happy New Year. And last Sunday, we had the biggest community celebration to celebrate Ethiopian New Year in downtown Silver Spring. We had over 25,000 people who came and said, "Wow, is this Ethiopia?" It's amazing. I grew up learning about the streets of Chicago and London and Sweden, but nobody heard about my story. There is an image deficiency. And first and foremost, I living in America, I as a member of the new African diaspora, on a daily basis, I do a whole lot of stuff to make sure that negative image is broken into pieces so people can see the light. Saying that, let me introduce you to Blessed Coffee. Blessed Coffee is a very simple, tiny concept with an amazing potential. I named my company after the Ethiopian coffee. In the Ethiopian coffee ceremony, the third cup is called. In Ethiopian coffee ceremony, coffee is a ritual where community comes together once a day to forge a relationship and exchange social news. It takes about an hour where everybody comes together. And the last cup, coffee is brewed 3 times. The last cup is called Blessed Coffee to signify the cultural significance of coffee. In the African context, I called my company Blessed Coffee, which is Baraka, the last coffee. I introduced it to connect small coffee farmers in Ethiopia with a consumer here in the US and to give them an investment opportunity and access and dynamic sharing to the profit making. I'll tell you why. You know, the coffee that you drink on a daily basis, 90% of the work is done by a simple farmer who lives in a little village who works from sunrise to sundown, but only get 1% of the price we pay on this end. He does 90% of the work, he only gets 1% of the price that we pay on this end. With that 1%, he can't afford 3 meals a day, cannot even drink a clean water. On this side, who do 10% of the work are keeping 90% of the dollar. And we, the consumers, are charged an exuberant amount of money. We don't get anything in return. To me, at the first glance, it was very offensive, because the international market system lacks the African farmer in poverty, the African farmer who works from sunrise to sundown. I was offended by that, living in America and in a place of abundance, having the duality of Ethiopian American or African American label. I thought it was very offended because I knew my neighbors are more than fair. So I wanted to connect most important, significant player in any transaction, the consumer and the producer, and give both access to the investment and also give them access to dynamic benefit sharing. I am happy to report to you today, I am proud to say 240,000 small coffee farmers in the southern part of Ethiopia are willing to contribute $10 investment in my venture, which is $2.4 million. For the first model I'm going to build in Takoma Park and duplicate whatever Starbucks is. And the farmers have the capacity to be my partner. I'm going to change the international narrative. An African farmer only needs an opportunity. He can take care of himself. Not only that, he can help me pay my bills. He can help me create jobs on the side. And that is an amazing, dynamic, innovative, out of this world. And instead of cursing, instead of cursing the darkness, a light each and every one of us can light. That is profound. In fact, by default, you know the market calls fair trade? I changed the concept, I took it to the next level. I changed the fair to virtuous because all the stakeholders have to have righteous participation, and I changed the trade to an exchange because it's not a commodity. There is humanity, culture behind the transaction. We all, in the eyes of God, we're all the same wherever we're at. So we come to a marketplace with gift and goods, and the marketplace has to give us an opportunity to exchange. And those in the middle have to stop to being a broker and be facilitators for a sustainable business transaction. That's my model. And I'm very proud because I'm introducing it into international development discourse. Here is a new model. Each and every one of you can duplicate. This time I'm doing it with coffee. It can be done. Africa is rich with resources, as you know. The case about the coffee happens to be true with every resource that comes from Africa. From gold, diamond, to anything you can imagine. Africa is rich. The Africans produce, but they get so little from this market because in this marketplace because they don't have partners on this end. So this is a massive opportunity. As one individual, I think I'm pushing an idea called Virtuous Exchange. In fact, after I prove my coffee shop, I'm going to institute a company called Virtuous Exchange to tell all of you, give all of you an opportunity to partner with the Africans, be a facilitator, create wealth, because America is a giant market, by the way, coffee is $100 billion market. In about 10 years, I'm going to be a billionaire. And in about 10 years, every African farmer is going to send his kid to school. He's going to live in a decent life. He's going to raise his kids in health and sustainable fashion. So here I am to tell you, I don't care about what others do. I care about what we are doing as the diaspora. The diaspora has an amazing purchasing power. The diaspora has an amazing investment power. The diaspora, the African diaspora, people from the African continent, whether you came yesterday, today, or tomorrow, if you live in this world, you are an African diaspora. You have the political power, the purchasing power, the investment power. You need to check yourself and say, what am I doing on a daily basis? Believe it or not, every time you pull your wallet, you're making a decision. Are you buying Starbucks or are you buying my coffee? I mean, each and every, and last but least, the new African immigrant, which is the new member of the African diaspora, is on the rise. It's making a relevant presence in Africa, in America. But there's a disconnect from the older community. We need to break that barrier. We need to create discourses so that we can tap into each other's experience and knowledge and resources. If we can do that, the rising African immigrant is contributing to the cultural and economic development of America today, needs investment power, needs a market, I don't want to pick on people, but I see a gentleman before me who's recently trying to produce Ethiopian spices produced by single mothers and women and addis to the market. He was trying to follow the same thing I'm trying to do in his own way. An IT guy giving his IT prestigious job is trying to create a model, the same model, that can connect the consumer with the producer. The gentleman before me has a company called Kemam. Kemam is Ethiopian hot paper. Do you know the Chinese hot paper is $1 billion market? Where is African hot paper? And the market is so big. The opportunity is so massive. So with my story, I would like to say there is a massive opportunity. 7 out of the 10 fast-growing countries in the world are in Africa. Africa is the biggest middle class. The purchasing power was earlier mentioned. Look, open your eyes. Africa is the opportunity, and the leaders. In fact, if America is to lead the world out of this economical crisis, it is between the relationship America will forge with Africa. That relationship has to be for mutual benefit and mutual growth. And then we, the diaspora, with African diaspora living here, should take leadership in that investment. There's a massive opportunity to create wealth. There's a massive opportunity to make an impact. And with that, I'm going to leave you. This conversation is also happening on a local level. And in Maryland, where I live in Montgomery County, the county executive for the very first time created an African advisory board to help him shape in his policy. And our Governor O'Malley, created a commission for African affairs to help him craft a policy that really can support the emerging African community. So the movement is on the ground, the people are on the ground. I'm happy to be a member of both the County Advisory Board and the Governor's Commission on African Affairs. I see it on the ground. There are opportunities at hand, and let's not just meet once a year on a forum like this. Every time we pull our wallet, let's cast that vote that can empower us here and make a difference. If you want detail, you can talk to me later on. And I will end by saying, at the Ethiopian New Year festival last Sunday, I was delighted to see, I'm going to put Dr. Collins on the spot. I was delighted to see the presence of the Smithsonian African Museum building a bridge. We need to do that. Dr. Cole, thank you very, very much. So we have to break the barrier. We have to read. We have to engage ourselves. We have to enlighten ourselves. We have to educate ourselves and seize the opportunity and take a leadership in the massive economic opportunity at hand. Thank you for your attention.
What did I tell you? And we're only on number 2. Thank you to Bebu for that wonderful and powerful overview. And we've also now been joined by our 4th panelist, Mr. Kendall Tyre. Kendall is a partner at Nixon Peabody, and he will share details of Lexnor, an international network of lawyers connecting the African diaspora and creating global business opportunities. Before we go into Kendall's experience, we're now going to turn it over to Julie with her business of Neely's. You're from Cameroon, and you've established a successful business that now has your products in Whole Foods and other grocers around the country. What are the challenges that you find to sourcing from the continent? What types of actions or policies would you like to see as a business importing the goods to the United States? Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this panel. I would like to extend our thanks to Congresswoman Bass for inviting us to share our experience with you. I am so excited. My husband and I, Albert, he's in the audience, we have worked over the last 10 years to get African food distributed, create value-added products in the United States, and look at sourcing from Africa. One of the things that I'm going to talk about several things. I'm going to talk about the challenges. I'm going to talk about how we started, how Nelly's Foods was born. We started out first as Ultimate Seasonings. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that company. And then we've transitioned into Nelly's Foods because we actually offer a variety of different products. We offer from food service to grocery items, but throughout, and we do some importing too. So I'm going to talk about how this whole concept got started. Basically, it got started, I've been in the United States. I was born in Cameroon, raised in Cameroon, came here to college. And what I realized while I was at the University of North Carolina was that African food was not anywhere in the grocery stores. We were not represented, and I noticed that I had a lot of family, I had friends, but if we wanted to go out and eat anything, nothing was known about our culture. And for those who know me, I'm a very, very proud African. I would tell you any day I'm African, I'll tell you where I'm from, I'll show you pictures of my family, my village, my grandmother, everybody. And so I couldn't understand why information was so limited about our culture, even though when I look at it, my brothers and sisters here, the people I went to school with, African Americans, we are the same in just about every way. And I couldn't understand why, you know, there's Chinese food, there's Thai food, there's food from everywhere else, but from Africa, the information is not known. So we decided that we were going to promote African culture through our food, which is one of the ways to break the barrier. And we were going to take African food mainstream. That was our goal. And in 2003, I was working in the corporate world and had a family and decided this is what we're going to do. So I did as much research as I could, my husband and I, and we decided to launch a sauce called Ultimate Seasonings. Basically, it's an African sauce. It's like a stew that you can use to make a lot of different food products. And we started selling it at a farmer's market in Baltimore. For those of you who know a farmer's market in Baltimore under the Joseph Fall Expressway, that's where we started. And before so long, within a year, we were in Giant, we were in Whole Foods, we were in Costco, and we just slowly promoted it. Now, in the process of doing that, sourcing ingredients, we decided, why is it that we are not getting foods from Africa? There's very limited information about suppliers from Africa. How can we get more products sourced from Africa other than just coffee? There's so many other products that we could get. And one of the things that we embarked on, we found out this I don't know if you're familiar with cassava, yucca. It's called white gold. Cassava is one of the best products on the market. It's gluten-free, it's high in fiber. You can do so much with it. You can make bread with it. You don't have a lot of digestive issues with it. But Africa grows the most cassava, yet exports zero of it. So the question is, how do we start? We decided, how do we start to get cassava out of the United States, out of Africa? So we started going. I went to Latin America. I went to Southeast Asia. In fact, last night, I just came back from Costa Rica last night. And getting a lot of information on how to do it, and we realized that it's all a matter of organizing. It's partnering with the right people, getting information out there, getting our governments, getting our farmers, organizing them into cooperatives, setting up processes so that we can create factories that can process it, that meet all the right certifications, work with the various agencies and partners so that we can put this together. So we're actually working on it. This is a work in progress. We currently are importing cassava, but we haven't even scratched the surface of the earth with it. Plantains. Africa is so fertile. The land, you just throw anything out. Take the seed, take a mango seed, throw it out and it grows. You don't need to do anything. Why can't we work together in agriculture? Because the development of any continent, when we look at it across the board, it starts with agriculture. If you can feed your people, they can eat well, they can pay for their kids' school, they can have clean water, they can do a lot of things. So we decided that we were going to start with agriculture. And as we progress, right now we're working on, our products are in supermarkets. If ever you go to Whole Foods, if ever you eat at Whole Foods, I'm sure you've eaten our products. We're Nellie's Foods. I don't know if you've ever seen this in any other stores. This is our frozen line. Costco rotates it in and out of stores. Sam's Club does also every so often. But basically, it's an African stew with chicken. We've made it very simple. The idea is really to promote the food. And if you can see, we have the African lady right here who represents our culture. And so that you can see that she works hard to put the food, to make the food, and our food is very clean. We don't have any additives, no preservatives. And the idea is really, let's get organized, put this together, and we will all not only feed our families, we can all take part in the economic benefits of the food industry. What I noticed is there are very few of us in the food distribution business across the board. Everywhere we go, we don't find, usually I'm almost the only Black person in there. So the question is, why aren't we represented? Whereas we all eat every day, several times a day, how can we participate in this economic benefit also? And at the same time, help out the farmers, the local farmers in Africa, to be able to take care of their families. And that's about it. I can take questions at the end of the process. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie. And last but certainly not least, we have Kendall Tyre, who will share a little bit more about Lexnor's work. Perhaps you can maybe illustrate how successful your ventures have been into the diaspora communities and how you've tapped into that space.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Hi, my name is Kendall Tyre. I'm a partner in the law firm of Nixon Peabody in its Washington office here. I just realized today's my 21st year at the firm, so it's going okay. But in part, it's going okay because of some of the things that I've been doing with an organization called Lex Noir. And in part, Lex Noir is it's a legal organization, but one of the premier legal organizations in the States, which I happen to be involved with, is the National Bar Association. I'm the co-chair of the International Law Section. For those of you who don't know, the NBA is one of the oldest and largest associations of African American judges, lawyers, and law students. I think probably the best way to illustrate what Lex Noir is all about is just to tell a story about its creation. In my legal practice, I do a lot of international work, and primarily cross-border mergers and acquisitions, as well as a fair amount, actually a lot of international franchise work. So for franchisors going to a foreign country, I represent their interest and help them set up shop, negotiate the agreements, et cetera, et cetera. But about 13 years ago, I was on my way to the UK for a meeting. And right before I left, I went to a meeting of the local affiliate here of the National Bar Association. And they were having a seminar on racial profiling. And I didn't have very much time, but I wanted to meet some people, plus they were serving free drinks and free food. So I thought, well, before I get on this torturous plane trip, I might as well go out and see what's going on. So I went, and it was a really interesting seminar. They were talking about the problems, the solutions for racial profiling, what could be done, what should be done, and I found it very interesting. So I got on the plane, landed in the UK, went to my meetings, and got a phone call from someone saying, hey, there's a seminar that's being put on by the Society of Black Lawyers of England and Wales. I thought, it's kind of interesting, I think I'll go. So I went to the program that night, more free food, things were working out. Then I happened to look down on the agenda, and the topic was racial profiling. What could be done? What are the solutions? How do we handle this? This just an expression of the angst and frustration in the community. And as I've said a couple times, I think the emotion that really struck me when I was sitting there was just one of frustration and almost anger, because we had two separate communities separated by the Atlantic, going through the same things, looking for the same solutions, and there was no communication, as far as I was aware, and that was really difficult for me to swallow. And then, I started to reach out a little further and expanding my network. And every time I'd go someplace, I'd actually look for if there was an organization of black lawyers. And I came across, the Black Solicitors Network in the UK. They say the Canadian Association of Black Lawyers in South Africa, the Black Lawyers Association, and a series of other organizations. And out of those experiences, Lex Noir was born. Lex Noir is an international network of lawyers connecting the African diaspora, and we provide professional development and seminars for lawyers and people who are interested in legal issues. And what we're also able to do is to create some dialogue between the various black communities in various parts of the world. And also it's clearly for business development also. If someone has a particular deal in a particular area of the world where we have a national representative, I correspond with them, we co-counsel, and we're able to cross the finish line and close deals and represent the interests of the client on both sides of the Atlantic or wherever it happens to be. And so at this point, we reach over 3,000 attorneys in over 31 countries, and we have our website is structured in a manner such that there's community news, what's going on with the Garifuna in Central America, what's going on with the black community in Iraq. There's 2 million Afro-Iraqis who live in Basra. You may not have known that. And one of their leaders was just assassinated earlier this year because they were, guess what? They were claiming discrimination and trying to really sort of push ahead their own agenda by having a place in the legislature. in Iraq. The story goes on. India, I mean, you just name it. We're there, and we're not connected, and it's what drives me. So we have community news. We have issues dealing with particular legal topics, and it's all to inform and keep people together. So one of the things that we started to do is also hold webinars and seminars. And so we've held webinars on particular legal issues for in-house counsel, those lawyers who work in-house at major corporations or other lawyers. We've had those seminars in DC, in Chicago, in Cape Town, and Johannesburg. Again, at this point, we have over, I would say, about 15 to 20 countries that have Lex Noir representatives in them. And so one of the things that when I started to do more and more transactions relating to Africa, what I came across was the fact that there were really no legal resources that were really giving me some insight as to what the lay of the land was or what the structures were for particular types of deals. And again, that gave me some motivation to really basically work with and co-counsel with a variety of practitioners, legal practitioners on the continent, and really pull together the first book of its kind. It's Franchising in Africa, because it's one of my practice areas. It's what I'm particularly interested in. So what we did was we created basically what are the top 20 questions that you'd need to know to represent someone with an interest in setting up a franchise arrangement in a particular country. The local practitioners wrote their chapter, we compiled it, we analyzed it, we put it together, and as we were going through this, we realized we're the only book out there that compiles this information. And that led to a variety of speaking engagements. Last fall I was in Dublin speaking at the International Bar Association. I was in Dubai in May speaking at the Global African Forum in a variety of different issues. And because of that success, we have now really realized that this is not just an issue with franchising, so we've created a variety of different teams of attorneys that are working on a variety of different books that include international arbitration in Africa, mergers and acquisitions in Africa, international private equity in Africa. You name it, it's probably on the schedule as far as rolling out books. Franchising in Africa 2013 is due out in about 3 weeks, if I can manage not to sleep during those 3 weeks. But it's a really exciting time, and we're really just sort of hitting our stride, I think. And for this next chapter, for this next book, we're going from covering 11 countries, which is the first edition here, up to about 22 countries. And we'll probably use those same practitioners or same firms, really prominent firms in various African countries, to really help us with the other substantive areas of law. Now, the other thing that we've started to do to have more of an outreach into the diaspora is to host a series of seminars. Those seminars are entitled Doing Business and Investing in Africa, and we're having them, they'll be hosted at least twice a year in Boston, New York, DC, Chicago, Los Angeles, and LA. The first set of those seminars is going to be the first week in October. DC is essentially sold out, and what we're doing in each of those cities is we have a local company or a local practitioner who will be speaking. Someone from Lex Noir, and then we'll also be broadcasting via Skype from someone from the continent. In this, the first round in October, we're having a partner from a major law firm in Africa, Edward Nathan Sonnenberg's based in South Africa, who will be speaking. If we can keep him awake, it's going to be about 1 o'clock in the morning, but I promised him a good time the next time I'm in Cape Town. So that's what Lex Noir is all about. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. But it's again, it's an exciting time. And the key issue with Lex Noir is we're just trying to leverage the skills and expertise of the African legal diaspora to represent all the great ideas that have been presented here and all the great products and services that will come, and create a bar none, a powerful legal Black not-for-profit that caters and hooks people up to and satisfies their legal needs by identifying key practitioners around the globe. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much to all of our panelists. Now we've heard from the panelists, it's time to hear from you. We are going to open it up for a question and answer session. We'll take about a handful of questions at a time. Keep the questions as succinct as possible so the panelists can give you as much of a full answer as possible. Yeah, and so we've got a line on both sides, and I think we have microphones moving around. Start there.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am Evelyn Gonzalez. I'm a native Washingtonian, born here in the great city of Washington, D.C. I have been involved in community activities both domestically and internationally for over 42 years. I have been coming to the Congressional Black Caucus for 42 years. And the members that were then in Congress, Walter E. Fauntleroy, Shirley Chisholm, Charles Diggs, Adam Clayton Powell, Perrin Mitchell from Maryland, Diane Watson, Donald Payne, Gola Teal Butcher, who's a well-known international lawyer who's now deceased, started the international law movement, working with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law to free South Africa from apartheid. She worked with the late Congressman Charles Diggs in order to do that. I was very, Mr. Tababu, incensed and insulted by your offensive comment concerning African Americans here in the United States, being ignorant. I have been going to Africa since 1971. I've taught and worked and built up the capacity of Senegalese persons coming here to the United States. I've also traveled to Morocco, to Liberia. I have gone to Tanzania. And in fact, we flew there on Ethiopian Airways, stopped over in Addis Ababa, and gone on to Kenya as well as Zanzibar. South Africa, I've been to as well, not once, but several times. So we have been involved. We are very knowledgeable about Africa. We've helped to free Africa as well as free ourselves here in the United States as we work with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I don't want to add to bias, and we have worked to eradicate racial bias, racial profiling. And so when you make a comment like that, it's very divisive. And it's not appreciated, and it adds to intolerance. And we're about creating more tolerance.
Okay, well, thank you, Mrs. Gonzalez, for your remark. That's very important. But also, I just want to note that that's the kind of history and experience that our generation is craving to learn from. So on behalf of Dawn, I say thank you. And I also invite you to speak to our members, to us as an organization, because I know our members will want to hear your experience.
Samara, can I make a quick comment?
Thank you. We're just going to take a few questions, and then we'll open it up for a response. So we took one from there. We'll take one on this side, and then in the middle. Gentleman over here.
Yes, good afternoon, and greetings to the panel. My name is Brother Cliff. I'm the Maryland State Facilitator with an organization known as the 6th Region Diaspora Caucus. It was given that name because the African Union in 2003, at least unofficially, called the diaspora, the African diaspora, those of us living outside the continent, regardless of our citizenship, the 6th Region. And they also charged the diaspora with organizing itself so that we could establish a grassroots responsive and representative voice within the African Union, and that is a primary mission of the organization to which I belong. We also have a component in our organization called the Pan-African Business and Trade Centers. We actually have an office in Ghana, and we just opened up one in Ethiopia, and it's probably kind of slow going as far as getting that established and getting its feet up under it. I was moved by the remarks of everyone up there. First of all, to Sister Samar, we definitely would like to find out a way that SRDC can make a connection with Dawn so that we can do some of this organizing of the diaspora here in the United States. I also heard comments from all of the panelists that were very, I think, informative as far as the food that comes from the continent and the growers and the opportunity to not only assist the farmers. Black farmers here are facing discrimination just as African farmers are on the continent. And I think it's important for us to find a way to get that food grown on the continent without Monsantoizing the ground that it comes from. And I think it's very important for us to connect our people here in terms of the black farmers with the black farmers on the continent. Once we're able to do that, my guess is that the black agricultural business conglomerate that might come from that might be one that no one else will be able to stop. That train will just go and no one will be able to stop it. And I'm very interested also in finding out how we can hook up with you, because I'm from Baltimore, and also with Baba Tababu as far as the coffee goes, because I'm really interested in those things. And also what Brother Reginald had talked about with regard to how we go across to the continent only with the idea of making money, and to try not to make money on the backs of African people. And Brother Kendall, as far as that whole legal aspect, especially talking about where we are, and many of us don't know. I personally was not offended by the comment that many of us here are ignorant, because I think many of us, not all of us, I think those of us who've been heavily involved in the struggle really do understand what's going on, but many of us really are ignorant. My question is very quick, although that wasn't. I want to introduce it. Is there a movement afoot to create something akin to an African-centered business coalition? Something like a Pan-African United Front, but one that specifically deals with businesses, and if there is, how can one get involved with that? And if there is not, can we get together to see about getting it started?
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We're gonna try and remember that we need questions. We want really good questions, so thank you for that. We'll take one. Oh, hi, Rosemary. How are you?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rosemary. In the morning, I was speaking as a non-profit. Now I'm in business now. A businesswoman.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Sama. Sama has given us so as African women. She tells us things that we can do and how we can be.
Well, we're already doing them.
Yes.
Yes.
I came here in the United States in 2000, and my business was coffee and tea. I came to market coffee. I went all over Seattle, met with Shilu's, Starbucks, Seattle coffee. It was very difficult to penetrate into the market. So thank you so much, and I would like to know where your coffee is. I would be marketing you and drinking and bringing customers.
Thank you.
Now, my brother, thank you so much for the beauty products. Where are you manufacturing in Africa, or you just selling to African women hair products, or what are you trying to do? I have a wonderful young lady from Ghana who is making products from cocoa shea butter. She brings shea butter from Ghana. She brings here, she's packaging with her hands. And she said, why can't you try to partner, put all your money into her company so that you can work with her, so that she doesn't back her products with hands. I'll give you her contacts. My sister lady, thank you so much. As I said in the morning, African women are the backbone of communities and the backbone of everything. So thank you for your hard work and what you are doing. We just got orders on cassava, but you know where the cassava was going? To Vietnam. It wasn't even coming here. Try cassava. We are going to sell try cassava from East Africa. So what you are doing is very good. The lawyer, which lawyer are you partnering with? You see all this problem that is causing business in Africa and here is because of law. Whom are you telling? I'm not a lawyer, but I can work with you to identify which lawyers to deal with so that you don't just show us the book. We want to practical with the lawyers on the ground. This is where the problem is with businesses in Africa. Getting the rule of law of doing business, export, imports. What are you importing? AGOA has no product. What are they brooding? When they bring things to the airport or port, there is nobody to clear. Whom are you doing with this? You need to do with the local lawyers on the ground, people like me, civil society who are in business, and we will make it work. Not say we are doing this. We want to be part of all what you are doing. So thank you so much. And somebody just asked me product for hair in Thailand. So
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
We got it. We asked for it. We got it.
I would like to speak about.
Can we just go down each one?
Okay.
If we
because
can.
the first question asked is a very important question. I think I was misunderstood.
Okay.
So I'd like to get. I'm sorry I missed your name, dear my sister. Where are you? Okay, no, the first lady. Okay, I think you took my misunderstood me. My apology if you were very passionate about your remark. My apology to you publicly. But the point I'm trying to make. I'm an African. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in America. The African story has been told by Hollywood. Africa has been protected as a jungle. The popular understanding of the world of Africa is not only, I mean, it's very offensive. When I say you don't know, I mean America as a whole. You are an activist, I know. The activists know Africa very well. You've already paid a price. By the way, I sit here because of the struggle paid before me. I sit here because of, I know. I've seen Roots when I was 14. I've seen Superfly when I was 14. I know what I'm talking about. But my dear lady, with all due respect to those activists who have played in blood, America doesn't know much about Africa. Yes. No. Just allow me to finish. Allow me to finish my statement. And I said it in the context of dramatizing my point to provoke thoughts, because we need to be, it's a very controversy, we need to be recognized, be mindful. By the way, not only, image has been transacted by mainstream media. Mainstream media is driven by profit. Profit sells, problem sells audience. So most of the story told about Africa has been negative oriented. Not only that, some of the story I heard about America was also crisis. So the understanding, the perception that we have about each other has been brokered by a middleman with different incentives and agenda. So we need, I'm not disregarding the price paid, the activism that you mentioned. I enjoy that. I'm taking a privilege from that. But the fact remains, if people think Africa is a dark continent, they need to be told, they need to do their homework and find out. Thank you for your activism. Thank you for your passionate comment. I am with you, my sister. Thank you.
Okay, what's your name again?
Rosemary.
Rosemary. I've been here all day, and you're right. You were a nonprofit earlier, and now you're a profit, and that's good. But to that point, and the reason I brought that up, that's what it's about, being multifaceted. Africa needs multifaceted individuals. If you go with a single mindset, a single game plan, trust me, your head will be handed to you, your shoes will be given to you as you walk out the door. So be multifaceted, be connected to the community, but also be connected to business. As Luster Products, your question to me was, are we just selling hair products to make profits, or are we doing things to empower people? We are about empowerment. As I said earlier, we employ over 350 people worldwide. On the African continent, I have maybe 25 staff in various countries. We're in 17 different countries. We do manufacture a small amount of products in South Africa. I've been going to South Africa since 1987. Saw all the apartheid. Had the chance, the privilege, the honor, the the milestone of my life to meet Madiba, to meet Mandela at the first Made in USA Expo in Johannesburg. And what that day taught me was that he came to our booth. He did a walkthrough at the end of the day. We just happened to be setting up for the next day. He came through, he shook our hands. We were the only, and when I say only, the only African-American company there from America. I mean, it was the Made in USA Expo, but we were the only one. And his statement to me, I will never forget, he said he was proud of us as Americans, but doubly proud of the fact that we were African-American and that we have come to Africa to share our knowledge, our expertise, and our training. And what we said to him is that we have come to also learn, to share, to empower. So yes, to your point, I'm not just selling hair products. We believe in training. We believe in showing women how to be in business. And women are the backbone of Africa. My brothers, women run the world, and just let it be clear. But that's from a respectful standpoint, and that's not degrading men. We need women to be strong. We need them to be empowered, especially in Africa. So I thank you for your commitment, and I thank everyone else here for their commitment. And to the gentleman over there, he mentioned the fact that I spoke about not just going to take resources, because in South Africa's evolution, I was there in the early days when apartheid had just ended. And unfortunately, there were some carpetbagger mentality people there. They came just to make some money and get out of Dodge. What can I make? What government funding can I get? How can I kind of tweak it to make it look good, but I'm not going to really leave anything behind? And they left. And that left such a bad taste in my mouth that I actually confronted some people. So I'm just saying that to say we are Luster Products, and you probably know it's Pink Oil Moisturizer.
Oh my goodness.
S-Curl. So you know who we are, you know we've been around, and we're not going anywhere. And like I said, we're starting on 3rd generation. So thank you. I need your card afterward. I need your shea butter card, and I need the lady who wants to buy some products. I'll talk to anybody.
I just wanted to say thank you for acknowledging what we said. You know, like I said, Africa there's so much opportunity in Africa. Take a look, go there. It's a wonderful place to be, to live, to do business, and there's nothing like giving back. When you help someone, when you help them to be able to provide for themselves, there's no better feeling than that. Even though you can get profit from that, but when you can see that they can feed their families, live well, it's the greatest feeling that anybody can have. And I have seen that. We're in the process of organizing cooperatives right now in Cameroon, and growing cassava. People are growing cassava. We're encouraging them. But there's one thing I want to say. I would like to. I missed this point. On the financial side, we need to get together, find ways, because that's one of the aspects that we're having some trouble with in financing projects, creating value-added products in Africa. Because what happens is the coffee gets grown by the farmers, exported, and gets roasted out here or in Europe. All the raw materials, same thing. If we can teach that expertise in Africa and develop industries there so that the Africans themselves can create these value-added products, I mean, that would be the best thing ever for the continent. Now, I don't know if you've seen some of the recent statistics and reports from the African Development Bank. The population of Africa is growing at a rapid rate. There is so much opportunity. I don't know if you've seen Ethiopia, what the population of Ethiopia is going to be, what the population of Nigeria is going to be by 2025. It's set to double. Now, when you look at that, where's the opportunity? Where's the buying power? What can we provide, teach, create industries? Pick any industry that you want. You go to Africa, you make it. That's all I have to say. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, before Kendall gets to his question, we're just going to take the questions from people standing up in the interest of time. So thank you for those of you that have waited, and then hopefully we can get your questions. Kendall?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, it's a couple of points as far as giving back to the community and things that we've done. One of the things when we were trying to pull people together in Lex Noir, it was really sort of difficult to get a concept around what the power of what we were able to do as a collective group throughout the diaspora. But one thing that caught on really early on that we discovered was by just saying, look, if we just come together and create a scholarship, if we create a scholarship fund for Black law students anywhere in the world, then that's something that people could readily put their minds around. And we raised a significant fund in a short period of time. And over the years, we've financed legal education of about 5 or 6 students. And let's just say the U.S. dollar goes very far, to the extent that in a couple of situations we were able to pay for the entire legal education tuition in some jurisdictions.
Fantastic. Okay, now you've been waiting for quite a long time, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Janice Farabee, and I want to acknowledge Congresswoman Bass, the panel, and this absolutely fabulous audience, and as well as our moderator. My question is about how to take a service business to Africa. I'm the founder and CEO of Farabee Enterprises International, a global female social enterprise. We look to transform the lives of girls and the women that work with them. I call it speaking life to women and girls through culturally customized, non-formal education products and services, best known for our award-winning Got It Going On brand for girls, featured on Oprah. I'm a 2003 Essence Award winner. I'd like to find out about taking my Train the Trainer program to South Africa. I've been working with girls here in the U.S. for over 30 years. For the past 10 years in South Africa, we have interest in Ghana and Botswana as well. And I'd like to know about how to take a service business where I would be training trainers, as I do here. I train service providers to provide the Got It Going On program in their communities, doing it culturally customizing the books that I've written that turned into the curriculum, that turned into the program, but taking that to Africa and leaving that so that the individuals there can raise their girls in their particular culture using a product that I've created.
Great, thank you. Okay, over here, Nina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nina. I want to tell everyone I'm a member of DAWN, as well as the founder of African Development Jobs. I want to just hit at 2 questions, and I think, Julie, you addressed some, but I want to take it further. First, I just want to ask how you believe governments in Africa should be helping diaspora organizations. It tends to be very hard for diaspora organizations, especially starting to get into the market, just because of structural and policies that may not be catering to diaspora organizations. And also I wanted to ask, you talked about value-added products. How can we ensure, or perhaps maybe what is it that you do to make sure that the products that you have are affordable for the masses and not just for African elites on the ground, so that we're reaching more people and not just hitting just a core group of people. So I'm talking about products and services when I say that. So thank you.
Thank you, Nina. And to our right.
Good afternoon, glad to be here. My name is Lasana Mack, and I'm serving as Executive Director for Appeal Incorporated, which is a relatively new entity based here in Washington, D.C. And our mission is to organize and strategically utilize the vast resources of people of African descent, locally, nationally, and globally, to facilitate economic empowerment and educational enrichment to produce strong, self-sufficient, and prosperous communities. I also had the benefit of serving as City Treasurer of Washington, D.C. for the past 7 years, so that gave me a lot of good knowledge and experience in the field of finance. And now we're seeking to use that with Appeal to help build economic empowerment for African people. And so one of the things that we're doing to facilitate that is we're in the process of building a credit union, a financial institution, and we'll also be an online bank to help do some of what I just heard you talk about, sisters, provide financing for some projects that can help in the development of African resources we know that Africa is the richest continent in the world, and even us African Americans have income and purchasing power over $1 trillion, but that funding is not used in most cases to build wealth and empowerment for our people. So what I want to let you all know, and then conclude with a question to the panel, is that we have created this vehicle, this structure, to help do what a lot of us talk about and a lot of us know needs to be done, and we have people with the experience and expertise to do it, and that is build an institution, a financial institution that can help fund some of the development that is needed on the African continent and in the diaspora, and we need people to support that vehicle. So I want to know, how can we work with you and the constituencies that you all represent to help build support for what we're doing and others who are doing things that will help facilitate our empowerment, as opposed to having other folks continue to come into the continent and benefit from the vast resources of Africa that don't have the best interests of African people at heart.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. If it's all right, we'll just pause and you'll be the last round of questions, and let the panelists take these sets.
All right, I'm going to start with the young lady who talked about affordable products. You're absolutely right. When we manufacture in the U.S., we have minimum wage plus. Now, I'll say minimum wage plus because we pay more than minimum wage. And in that, you manufacture, you transport, you get products to a marketplace, and therefore they can be unaffordable to the local consumer. And so to that extent, my colleague, Mr. Clifton Bowles, who actually runs my African division in South Africa, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Angola, we put together a program where we manufacture a couple of products currently in South Africa. And we did that primarily so that it can be affordable. Now, going to Africa and doing business in Africa, you also need to think about some level of sacrifice. And I say sacrifice in a affectionate way. I don't mean it in it's going to hurt us, but level of profit, margins. When you're in business, that's what you talk, return on investment. But for us, the investment is in the people. And so we have taken a lot of losses financially just to make products affordable in a given market. But in that mindset, we are also about training. So if you take a long-term approach to the marketplace, to Africa, you're not trying to make money overnight. You're trying to build a base. And from that base, it should no longer have to ship 90% of my goods from here. My aspirations, my goal, our target is to make sure that we manufacture 90% of what we sell in Africa. Because, see, those resources are still coming to Luster Products Incorporated in some form or fashion through repatriation, but that investment in the continent, 7 of the 10 largest growing economies are in Africa. Do the math. Make the investment. Do the time-honored things that are necessary and sacrifice a little. We had a phone call the other day, and this is God's truth. A lady, our agent in Zimbabwe called us and said, "Oh my God, the president's daughter wants to get her hair done," or the prime minister's daughter. And we were like, well, huh? Oh, pardon me. Thank you for correction. And again, we're apolitical, but we also follow the rules. And so in having said that, while you're in the marketplace, the president's daughter can afford anything. However, the lady who's doing her hair probably can't afford to get it done herself. And so in that mindset, we make sure that we make products affordable. We take a tremendous hit on our selling price, but again, we're not just there to make money. We still make a profit, but it's a little profit. But magnify that times how many millions of people in Africa? And when you begin to court them and you begin to show them that you are sincere and that you are legitimate, because corruption is also a big problem. Big. And when I say corruption, I don't mean in the sense of a dash. I'm talking Wall Street. There you go. Thank you for that. Because major corruption comes from on high, but it permeates down into the community. And see, when we go into a marketplace and we engage a company, a group of people or agents, we let them know from day one we do not engage in backdoor deals. We don't engage in corrupt opportunities. We don't deal in hidden agendas. If you're not transparent, don't bring it to me. If you're not who you say you are, prepare yourself and come again. So to you, thank you for that question. And to the young lady got it going on in Young Man with the credit union, we're sitting up here, we're individuals. We got different companies and different purposes. But we also have, Cliff and I have talked about putting a consortium together of various non-competing entities. I travel, I'm there, I got people on the ground. Maybe he can't get there next month, I can. What can I do to help him? What can he do to help me? He's selling coffee, I'm selling products. Hell, people drink coffee while they're in the salon. So I'm saying that to say, don't be myopic. Don't just see what you sell. Don't just see what you do. See what your fellow comrades do, your fellow business people, and their credibility. You got to deal with credible people. Now, don't deal with no neophytes. Well, not because neophytes are okay. Don't deal with corruption. Don't deal with people who aren't who they say they are. And allow them to prove themselves, though, too, because the one thing about business, you start out with one mindset, and as you travel that road, you tend to tweak, change, and adapt. And so to that point, I don't see any reason why we can't do Got It Going On, can't do the credit union. And again, if I can't do anything but to take that information to the salon to disseminate it, because all you women know the salon is the epicenter of the community. Social worker, entrepreneurs, mothers, doctors, so therapists. So anyway, I'm just saying that to say, let's use each other. Let's be conduits for each other's enterprises and each other's businesses and not just be myopic in what we do.
Thank you very much. For the last set of questions, I'm just going to ask each of you to, we'll take all three, and then maybe the panelists in your closing remarks, you can answer this group of questions. Jahil and Takunbo, I'm relying on y'all. These are my friends. We're going to be good questions. My friend.
My name is Carl Johnson. 17-year-old student.
Speak up, brother.
No, he needs a mic.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Kari Ian Zame Johnson, and I'm a 17-year-old student and resident in the District of Columbia. And my question was asking whether any of you are involved with helping to fund or actually construct a cultural exchange between fellow youth in the city and students in making connections in Africa with other nations. I know there's a lot of development going on in Angola between the cultural but I was asking whether there's any funding or any effort being pushed towards building a strengthened connection between, the youth in this city and the youth in, across the countries in Africa. I know that actually Uruguay was involved with actually a cultural exchange in South America with students in, in America, and I think they were interested in Washington, D.C. But that was my question.
Thank you. What was your name again?
Kari Ian Zame Johnson.
Let's give Kari a round of applause because he's a 17-year-old student sitting here asking how he can learn more about the continent. So I'll take the liberty of just saying I think there's a number of people in this room who would be able to provide you with ideas of ways that you can connect with the continent. And if not, we will be able to help you because that's what Dawn does for women, but we also extend our advice to anyone who's interested in that. So thank you. Takunbo and then Jahil.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tokumba Koiki. I'm a proud British Nigerian and proud new member of Dawn. And I wanted to say thank you so much to all the panelists this afternoon. Your session has been very, very inspiring for me. Two things quickly. My daughter, who's just 6 years old, for the last 3 years, loves all things to do with hair and beauty and was always talking about wanting to become a hairstylist. She came to DC to visit me a couple of weeks ago, and she now decides she wants to actually run her own salon, which I was very proud, to hear. And my nephew was with her. They went to IOP, and they both decided that she was going to open a hair salon, and he was going to open an IOP next door so that people could eat and get their hair done. So, even from the young generations, the ideas are there. For me, as somebody who moved to Nigeria a couple of years ago, my heritage is, like I said, is Nigerian, and I moved to Nigeria a couple of years ago. And one of the things that I realized, as was being mentioned so many times today, is the opportunities there are enormous. And for me, as somebody who loves fashion and who's very proud of my Nigerian African heritage, I have been in the last couple of years trying to combine my love of those two. So my question is specifically to Julia. I was very inspired to hear how you started your business going at farmers market. And what I am trying to do at the moment is bring African-inspired goods into the US market. It's something that I did in the UK as well. And, I've been trying to do something similar while I'm here in the US. And I would love to get a chance to speak with you, hopefully convince you, maybe buy you coffee, to buy this coffee and get you as a potential mentor. But what advice would you give to a young, inspiring businesswoman like myself? Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question to Jill.
All right, this is going to be real quick and no preamble. I was just curious for the gentleman representing Lex Noir, if you all had capacity in cross-border structured financing engagements from a legal due diligence perspective. And also for Julie, Nigeria is doing a whole lot in cassava. In fact, I think 25%, about a quarter of their bread now has cassava flour. And they're also looking to integrate that flour into the global value chain, so it makes some opportunity for you. And the ag minister is very innovative. He's doing a lot of good stuff.
Thank you. And I made a mistake. We have the last question to our friend in the red dress.
Yes, hi. My name is Layla Winston, and I'm a freelance writer and journalist for the African Trumpet newspaper, and I also have my own business, which is Winston Media Concepts. And I had a question because I often approach things from the communication standpoint. And I know the gentleman who is enterprising with coffee and the pioneer who spoke of the work that was done in the past. I think there is a need for communication to be greatly strengthened between diaspora communities and also Africa. And I know that there are associations, I'm familiar with a few, that connect, individuals in Hong Kong or, individuals from Japan with individuals here on the ground in the United States. So I'd like to know if there are, and maybe there's someone here in the room who perhaps could answer that question as well. What is being done in terms of the communication capacity? Because communication means so much, and Africa has a rich history in communication with griots and also with our oral tradition. So there is that very basic need for communication, and what is being done to create kind of a friendship community or organization that actually sort of brings people and bridges people together, because it all begins with communication first.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So panelists, if you just, in your closings, want to try and address the questions, but we're going to need to keep it brief to 1 minute if possible.
I'd like to combine the last question with the question of the gentleman who talked about credit union. First, my belief is Africa's development is on trade, and the partner is America, and the African diaspora has to take the leadership. That is where it's, and the relationship has to be for mutual growth and benefit. That's the only way out. And in doing so, with that principle, we're also doing things on the ground. In November, we're launching the first U.S.-Africa Diaspora Business Forum on a local level in Silver Spring. Those of you who are interested, you can talk to me. And we're also launching online and on print magazine to foster the dialogue necessary. And the most important part lacking is understanding that there is potential, there is market, and understanding the fact that we need to calibrate our purchasing power, our investment power, and capitalize on our political power and stand behind brave leadership like Congresswoman Crichton Bass, and make sure she is supported to spearhead the movement she's started. So if we can do that, I think at the end of the day, the investment is very key and important. I'd like to have a conversation with you later on. The opportunity is at hand. We, the sons and the daughters of Africa, can create wealth and make a difference on both sides. And for those of you who are interested, talk to me. I'll be very happy to give you information about our U.S.-Africa Diaspora, our first annual business forum. We'll have a forum, we'll have workshop. It's a year-long campaign.
Thank you,
talk. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
address, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Okay. A few questions about making the products affordable. The young lady who asked that question. I believe that for agricultural products, value-added products in Africa, the only issue that we have is training. And the young lady who talked about, training, providing service in Africa, there is definitely a lot of opportunity to train people, the young Africans. You can train people, and as long as you look at it as a long-term investment in Africa, you can definitely make those products affordable. We're not reinventing the wheel in anything. The only way I look at it from this angle, we look at Asia. What are the Asians doing? How can they get the lifestyle that they're getting, yet manufacture products, affordable products, and ship them across the world, and at the same time have the quality of life, improve the standard of living for their people? Now, on the financial aspect, I want to make a suggestion. I'll tell you a short story.
I'm afraid we're going to need to
speed it up.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine a few years ago asked me this question: why don't you, an Asian guy who started a food company also, says, why don't you go to your community? We do not have community banks. I don't know, I've seen a lot of African Americans and diaspora go out of business in its inception. Like we know, most businesses go out of business the first 5 years. So what happens during that first 5 years? You need a cushion. So, that's just some of what I have to say. And about advice for an entrepreneur, just hang in there, give it everything, be passionate about it, and you'll make it.
Thank you, Julie. Kendall?
Sure. To the question related to the particular expertise, what we typically do at Lexnoir is if we don't know of someone with a particular expertise, we use social media to basically put out an APB on who knows someone who does this. And I think it's implied what we're looking for, someone within the community. And if we have exhausted that, in whatever country it happens to be, typically the people who are involved are with organizations and or firms that are rather large, and they can leverage the skills and expertise of the organization that they work with, because ultimately it's bringing together as many people as possible to leverage whatever skills and expertise they have, and or whatever networks and skills they have access to for the greater good.
Thank you so much. I want to give this panel a huge round of applause for their statements and input, and thank them. Before we wrap up, I want to just try and tie in what we've learned today about the diaspora, an African diaspora, an untapped engine of opportunities. That's what today's panel was about. Well, guess what? That untapped engine has been running and running and running, because the diaspora, they are more than just a dollar sign. They're innovative, they're experienced, they provide access, they have skill sets, they're visionary, they're entrepreneurial. In all different fields that we represent, even through our work in Dawn, it's an entrepreneurial vision. And the diaspora are awaiting opportunities. Now, as the moderator, I really have tried to not say too much about our work. But when I started and welcomed everyone, we had about half of the audience here. So I'm going to reintroduce myself and introduce our mission. As the Diaspora African Women's Network, we represent the next generation of African diaspora women who are committed to African affairs. We have over 300 women representing 34 African countries, plus the United States, Europe, Middle East, Latin America, the Caribbean. And this network is just a drop in the bucket of the network that actually exists of diaspora women building bridges. And I am not here because of myself, I'm here because of this network. And I want you to see this network. Will all the Dawners please stand up who are in the audience today? I know you're here. I see all of you. Each woman is an example of the kind of panelists that we've had today. Each person in this room is taking their ideas, and I hope that you can all connect and network. On behalf of Braintrust Africa, I would like to say thank you to Congresswoman Bass And I would especially like to thank the panelists again, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you soon. Thank you.
Well, let me just say we need another round of applause for an incredible moderator and a wonderful panel. As our moderator said, I think it is a wonderful way to close out today by talking about the future and by talking about how the African American as well as African diaspora can work and do business on the continent and accomplish a lot, both here as well as abroad. So thank you very much for your contributions to the day. And I just have to say, this has been a long day, but it is amazing to look around this room and see how many people are here, how many people were here throughout the day, how many people have still hung in at the end of a very long day. So I want to thank a number of folks, and then I want to ask for your help one more time on this survey. We really like to do events and activities that are designed and are asked for by you. That's why we do the survey. We want you to tell us what worked today, what could we do different, what would you like to see next year. We'll be back next year for the Brain Trust, but we're not going to wait a year. We do activities all year long, a variety of activities on Africa, looking at policy issues, key issues on the continent. One subject that we're going to be taking up soon is the President's initiative called Power Africa. If you think about the percentage of the continent that does not have electricity and how our country can help to electrify Africa. If we're talking about Africa moving into the next stage of development, you can't do business if you don't have electricity. And I know what hits me very much personally are the stories of women giving birth in the dark, or maybe having flashlights to help facilitate a birth. In the 21st century, that is just absolutely unacceptable, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that Congress passes the legislation so that our country can play a role in helping Africa move to the next level of development by electrifying. And so if you could fill out this survey, tell us what you want to see us do, we will make sure it gets done. I want to thank Microsoft and Skype. Microsoft and Chevron were contributors that allowed us to put this event on, and I want to thank them for their contribution. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, the moderators and panelists, the African Diplomatic Corps, Mel Foote, Bernadette Paulo, Walker Williams for their outreach and participation and collaboration with us, Trans-Africa, CSIS, the Wilson Center, volunteers and staff, and especially the survey collections and the volunteers who collected the surveys and did, we have a relatively small staff in Congress, and my staff from Los Angeles flew in, and then we had about 30 additional volunteers that helped to pull off today. And then I also want to give another round of applause and thanks to Dr. Jonetta Cole for blessing us with her participation today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will see you next year, same time, and I hope I see you a lot in between. Thank you.